Welcome to my complete Ansible Essential course. This series will teach you about Ansible, which gonna help you to start your journey in DevOps world. I want to make this course very interactive. I'm gonna teach you some theoretical concept, but as quickly as possible, I wanna get you hands-on. Cause for me, the best way to learn anything is to do it. So we're gonna build our virtual lab and we'll practice the concept there. So let's start. This is day 1 and these are the topics we're going to cover today. The first we'll talk about DevOps tools and we'll compare some of them in brief like Chef, Ansible, Puppet and SaltStack. Our next objective is to know what is Ansible, how it works, what it does and why we should use it. Then we're going to cover planning phase. There are certain parameters which we must take care of before implementing Ansible in our infra that we're gonna discuss about. After that, we're gonna start our Ansible installation in our lab server. We'll see how easy the installation is. Last but not least, in this series, we're gonna lab every possible scenario which we're gonna learn. So get ready to start this informative journey. I hope you will like it. So the world is shifting. The world is shifting towards automation. You have to learn automation. So first we're going to talk about what is DevOps tools. The DevOps model relies on effective tooling to help teams rapidly and reliably deploy and innovate for their customers. These tools automate manual tasks, help teams manage complex environments at huge scale. DevOps tools like Docker, Ansible, Chef, Puppet, SaltStack, Git, and many more. These tools enable us to implement infrastructure as a code, or you can say IAC. So here are some top IAC related DevOps tools which help us in software provisioning, configuration management, and application deployment. First, we're going to talk about Chef, Ansible, Puppet, and SaltStack. So here are some comparison which I am going to discuss in brief. So we compare them on a scale of below metrics: availability, ease of setup, management, scalability, and configuration languages. So first, let's talk about availability metric. So starting with Chef, if you talk about availability of Chef, when there is a failure on the primary server or say Chef server, it has backup server to take the place of the primary server. Whereas in Puppet, it has multi-master architecture. If the active master goes down, the other master takes the active master place. In Ansible, it runs with a single active node called the primary instance. If the primary goes down, there is a secondary instance to take its place. If we talk about SaltStack, SaltStack can have multiple masters configured. If one master is down, agent connect with the other master in that list. Therefore, it has multiple masters to configure Salt minions, which are nothing but the client component of SaltStack. So next parameter is ease of setup. So first we're going to talk about Chef. Chef has a master agent architecture, means one server will act as a master and the agents or say client have agent installed. So Chef server runs on the master machine and the Chef client runs as an agent on each client machine. Also, there is an extra component called workstation, which contains all the configuration which are tested and then pushed to the central Chef server. Therefore, it is not that easy to configure. If you talk about Puppet, Puppet also has a master agent architecture. Puppet server runs on the master machine and Puppet clients run as an agent on each client machine. After that, there is also a certificate signing between the agent and the master. So therefore, it is also not that easy. Whereas if you talk about Ansible configuration, it has only master running on the server machine but no agent running on the client machine. Ansible is agentless. So there is no need of any kind of agent that should install on client machine. There is no agent. It uses SSH connection to log into client systems or the nodes you want to configure. Client machine requires no special setup, not at all, hence it is faster to set up. Salt stack. Salt stack server is called as a salt master and the client are called as salt minions, which run as agents in the client machine. The next metric we're going to talk about is management and scalability. So in Chef, you need to be a programmer to manage the configuration as it offers configuration in Ruby DSL, which is a tough language to learn. Chef works on pull model, means each node or say client will talk to the server in a certain given time to pull configuration if there are any changes. So it works on pull model. Client pulls the configuration from the server. If we talk about Puppet, it's not very easy to manage the configuration as it uses its own language called Puppet DSL. Client pulls the configuration from the server, so it is also a pull based model. It is quite system administrator oriented and there is non-immediate remote execution. If you talk about Ansible and Salt Stack, both are easy to learn to manage the configuration as both uses YAML. Both uses push model. The server pushes the configuration to all the nodes. It is good for real-time applications as there is immediate remote executions. These tools enable us to implement infrastructure as a code. So these tools are also called IAC tools. So in this series, we're gonna focus on Ansible. The rest we'll discuss any other time. So our next objective is what is Ansible? So Ansible is developed by Red Hat. It is an open source community project. It is the simplest way to automate IT. Ansible is the only automation language that can be used across entire IT teams like system team, network administrator, or even developers and managers also. So Ansible is an open source software provisioning, configuration management, and application deployment tool that enables us to use infrastructure as a code. So why we should use Ansible? First one, because it's very simple. I have already shown you the comparison between its competitors. It's very easy to use, easy to set up, and it uses YAML, which can be learned in a very easy manner. It's human readable format, so anybody can learn it. So it's simple, it's powerful, it can manages all clients even if there is no Python installed. it needs only SSH connection, and it can scale a huge set of nodes. The scalability is very high. Third one is client and server model. Ansible uses client server model. So there is a server on which Ansible is will be installed, and from there it can communicate with all its node. It is written in Python. Whole Ansible is written on Python. So next we're gonna discuss about installing Ansible. So before we're gonna install Ansible, first let us know how Ansible works. It's a great DevOps tool for configuration management, but what I love about it is how the system works. It's a great program that gets installed on a server, and then it actually communicates with various client computers just like every other DevOps configuration management tools. The really cool part about Ansible is there is nothing to install on the client computers. There is no agent. All it needs is SSH and Python. So here I'm gonna demonstrate you how the Ansible works with a logical diagram. So in this diagram we do have three clients and one server which is connected, which can communicate to each other, and the client machine, the SSH and Python are already configured, and Ansible is installed on the server. First of all, Ansible is agentless, so there is no need of any kind of agent to be installed on the clients. So SSH and Python gonna fulfill all the requirements. And in fact, there are some things you can do on a machine like on a client machine even if it doesn't have Python installed. So devices like Cisco switches, routers, which we can't install Python but it can still manage it. All you really need is SSH. If you have an working SSH, the Ansible can manage it. So Ansible is the only installed on the computer that does the initiating of the command. In this case, the Ansible server. The server has already got the installation of Ansible. There is nothing installed on the client. It uses SSH to connect. So the only computer that has to be have Ansible installed is that the main Ansible server. And it doesn't even have to be any beefy server. Since it's very lightweight program, it can be running on a laptop or any low-end devices. It's not that much of CPU or RAM consuming program. So that's great feature of Ansible. That I already told you that even if there is no need of Python in some cases. However, in some complex scenarios, some complex module needs it. But basically you can run it without Python also. But you're gonna need it while implementing some complex scenarios. So before installing Ansible, there are certain parameters to plan before implementing Ansible environment. When you are thinking about how to configure or plan your network, you need to think about SSH. It uses SSH for everything that it does. Every time it connects, it uses SSH. So when we are planning to set up our Ansible server, we need to think about some certain parameters which SSH gonna use. So SSH is the key. First parameter is username. You can have the username consistent across all the clients that you are connecting. That's preferable. So in our lab, we are going to log in with the username Ansible. After that, you have to decide how are we going to able to configure system things. Like, are we going to use the sudo or the root account, or is Ansible is going to connect to the root account of the remote computers? So, well, candidly speaking, connecting to a root account over SSH, even though we are going to be using SSH keys, it freaks me out. So don't be a freak, don't use root account. So we are going to connect with the standard Ansible user, and then we are going to escalate privilege using sudo. So that means our client computer must have SSH setup only. The third one is passwordless keys. Obviously, we don't want to put credentials every single time we run Ansible. That's not automation. If you have to put credential every time, that's not much of automation. So what we are going to do is we are gonna set up passwordless SSH keys. Now what that means is we are going to set up SSH keys. It's very common for Linux administrator to do. Set up keys in order to authenticate instead of using a username and password. We are going to use password keys in our setup, which is really great way to eliminate the need of credential at all when you are connecting to a trusted server from a trusted computer. So how hard is it to install Ansible? It's really simple. Remember, we only have to install Ansible on our server that we are going to use to connect to those client machine. So we only install it in one place, and for us that place is going to be on our Ubuntu workstation, which I'm going to show you. So now, since this is our first look at our lab environment, I'll just kind of give you the tour, right? So basically it's a logical diagram that I'm going to show you here. So we are going to use VMware Workstation as our hypervisor. It is a paid software, it is great, but if you are not willing to use that, you can use VirtualBox. So here on a server, Ansible is going to be installed, which will be our Ubuntu server, and the IP is mentioned there. So we do have three clients basically. First one is Ubuntu desktop, second one is CentOS 8, and third one is Ubuntu server. So all of them is connected in a single network. This is our first look at our lab environment. This is our workstation. This is a computer that we are on right here. This is going to be our Ansible server. Its name is Ansible. You can see that its name is Ansible, and notice I am logged in as Ansible. And these are three clients. First one is Ubuntu GUI, the second one is CentOS, the third one is a Ubuntu server. Do you remember the logical network diagram which I had shown you? I'm going to show you once again. So that was our logical network diagram. We had a Ubuntu server which was 192.168.116.100, and then three clients were there. First one was Ubuntu desktop, second one was CentOS, the third one was Ubuntu server. So let's verify that we have configured it accordingly. So this is our Ubuntu workstation. The IP is 192.168.116.100, which is correct. First client has got the IP as 116.10 and CentOS machine have the IP 116.20. The Ubuntu server have the IP 116.30. So we are good with our configuration. Each machine can talk to each other. So let's move on. So remember one thing, all we have on these client machine, the all three client machine is SSH and Python. So we don't need to install anything on this client machine. To get Ansible up and running in our lab infra, we just need to set up our workstation machine, which is Ubuntu workstation, which is where the Ansible program will live. So I am gonna install the Ansible server. So its command will be sudo apt get install Ansible. It will ask for the sudo password. Just enter it. The installation has been started. Do you want to continue? I'm gonna press yes. Gonna install Ansible on our Ubuntu workstation. Just wait to get it installed. Let's just type Ansible and make sure it's installed. So I'm gonna run the command Ansible, and sure enough, it is installed. You may check the version of Ansible by putting this command Ansible ---- version. Yeah, so Ansible 2.9.6 has been installed on this computer, and the Python version is 3.8.5. Now let's make sure that it works really quick. I'm gonna clear this screen, type clear, and we are going to say Ansible localhost -m and the command ping. It's okay if you don't know what I am doing here. I'm gonna explain it all in upcoming videos. So as you can see, we had a success on this. The ping and the pong, meaning that it received a ping from localhost, it pinged localhost and it got a response. That's all this ping and pong means. So now we also have to add our clients so that the Ansible server or the Ansible workstation here knows what it has to connect to. But for right now, we have installed Ansible and we have our plan of attack. When it comes to username, we are going to use Ansible across all of our hosts, and we are going to use sudo to escalate privileges when we connect to them. If installing Ansible seemed a little bit too easy, that's because it really is easy. So till now we learned how the system works. We actually checked out the requirements, which is basically for the client machine, which was SSH and Python. They just have to SSH server installed so we can SSH to them, and Python if we want to do some more complex modules, and we figured out that plan also. The next step is how are we going to plan username and privilege escalation when our Ansible server connects to all our clients. That we're gonna do in upcoming video. So I'm excited to get going on this series with you. I hope this has been informative for you, and I would like to thank you for viewing. If you like the video, please hit the like button and please consider subscribing my channel. We'll meet in next video. Stay tuned and stay strong.